Today is Monday, August 14th, 2023, and it is 6 p.m. Bloomington Public School parents and caregivers, students, staff, and Bloomington residents who registered by the noon deadline today will have an opportunity to address the school board in order of their registration. There are 15 people registered. There's been a couple cancellations, and we will do our best to get through all speakers within the 45-minute listening session time frame. I will announce the name of the person to speak, followed by the name of the person that's on deck, so you'll have warning ahead of time when it's your turn to come up. Please be prepared to come to the table when your name is called. Each speaker is allotted 2 minutes. Please state your name at the beginning of the comments. When your time concludes, and I will time you on my phone up here, and so when you hear the alarm go off, you know your 2 minutes is over. When your time concludes, please return to the audience so the next speaker can begin in a timely fashion. Audience members shall remain respectful to the speakers so that they can finish their comments within the allotted time. As stated in policy, the school board does not respond at listening sessions. If needed, matters are referred to administration. And the listening session will conclude no later than 6:45 p.m. If there are registered speakers that did not have the opportunity to address the board, I will share alternate opportunities with those folks. Great, thank you. And I know some extra seats are coming out so that people can each have a seat. We do have to stick to fire code in terms of our capacity here tonight. All right, so our first speaker is John Peters, followed by Chris Foster. John, come on up. You get to pick your whichever one you'd like. And yeah, please speak directly to the microphone so that everyone can hear you. Thank you.
Roger that. Hello, my name is John Peters. Currently, I'm a Bloomington resident and parent. Currently, my wife and I have 2 kids in Bloomington Public Schools, one at Olson Middle and one at Olson Elementary. As you may or may not be aware, there are sexually explicit materials within the district school libraries, possibly within individual classrooms. A number of us are here tonight to express our concerns over the content that kids have access to. A few of us will be reading some passages from books that validate pedophilia, incest, sexual sadism, and gender issues such as transitioning with very obscene descriptions and which offer no educational basis for being accessible to minors. Apologize for the vulgarity, but we need to be upfront about what is available within our schools. One excerpt from this book is Gay, which is by Juno Dawson and available in the high schools. Page 41. Gay men have slightly longer and thicker winkies. Excellent. The amygdala of gay men is more responsive to porn than those of straight men. So we have bigger dicks and we're hornier, just saying. Page 173. 2 men can pleasure each other in a variety of fun ways. Number 1, handies, the hand job. The good news is you can practice on yourself. The bad news is each guy's become very used to his own way of getting himself off, and it continues much further. Also, number 2 on that page, 173, blowies, which gets into a graphic description of oral sex. Another book we have here, Me and Earl and the Dying Girl by Jesse Andrews. Since there's kids in the audience, I won't get quite as in-depth on this one, but page 32, Greg's inexplicable boner is in full retreat. Page 42, chapter 6, phone sex. Page 73, suggest that you habitually masturbate, overall pillows. Number 74, Yo Pa Gaines drove me to the Whole Foods, so if you need some funky elastic pickle relish for that pussy, just holler. And it goes on to use that word in great detail about 10, 15 more times in that same paragraph. Now, here's the deal. This is not about discriminating towards any particular group. This is about making sure that the books that are available in our school libraries and in classrooms are age appropriate. Sexually explicit materials of any nature do not belong in our schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have Chris Foster, followed by Stephanie King.
Hello, Chris Foster. Me and my wife are Bloomington residents and have 2 kids, 1st and 4th grade in schools. And I'm also here to talk about some sexually explicit books that are in our school libraries. I have a couple excerpts I'll just quickly read, if I can get through it. John, I commend you for that. I walked to my mother's room. This is from Push by Sapphire, page 51. I walked to my mother's room, but it looked very different. She looked different. I looked like a little baby almost. She is talking sweet to me like sometimes daddy talks. I am choking between her legs. Aha, aha. She is smelling like big woman smell. I'm gonna stop. Honestly, that's enough. There are children here. You guys get the point. And then the other one that I was going to talk about was The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I was 17, he was 42. That night, after his secretary left for the day, I was laid across his desk with my skirt around my hips and Ari's face between my legs. It turned out Ari had a fetish for orally pleasing underage girls. Yeah, I'm done with that one too. When I was asked to get up and speak about this one, I inadvertently tried to open the attachment at my work, and I wasn't allowed to. So why couldn't I there? But this is okay to have in our schools. That's all I need.
Thank you. Stephanie King, followed by Andrew Thule.
Hi there. I'm Stephanie King. My husband and I have two children in the district, a middle schooler here at Oak Grove and a high schooler at Jefferson. So I think the words in the literature we are discussing make us all somewhat uncomfortable. In my opinion, the material is lewd, obscene, not safe and friendly, and not appropriate for a school to have. Yet I do want to consider which children are benefiting from this material. And what does BPS believe as far as, is it necessary to help those students at the expense of other students that really don't want to see the material? Allowing our children to read this material can be considered encouraging sexual activity among our students. While each parent decides for themselves the age it is appropriate for their child to be sexually active, I don't want Bloomington Public Schools to be a district that encourages sexual activity among its students. Our focus, I would like to see, needs to be on English, history, math, science. Certainly that is what we are graded on by the state and by other families. Finally, who has provided us with the literature? Did it come from the state of Minnesota, the federal government, the teachers union, or where did it come from? I'd like to know. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next up is Andrew Thule, and that will be followed by Christine Seitz.
Hi, my name is Andrew Thule. Two kids in the district right now. One of my son goes to Westwood Elementary, and this is lack of books. So my son went up, the librarian promoted Ramadan during Lent. And so what happened is my son went up to the librarian and he asked if there were any books on Lent. And there were actually no books on Lent. So we went to the principal. Principal did a verification, and there were actually no books on Lent. So here we got the propagation of one faith over another, and absolutely no books on Lent in the public schools. So I'm going to talk about the lack of books, or the lack of books of faith in there. The book I have is on genderqueer, and this one here, very inappropriate. It says, "I got a new strap-on harness today. I can't wait to put it on you. It will fit my favorite dildo perfectly. You are going to look so hot. I can't wait to have your cock in my mouth. I'm going to give you the blowjob of your life. Then I want you inside me."
That's not appropriate.
And the guy says, "Holy shit.
Shut the fuck up.
This is the most turn on I've ever been in my life. I'm dying." And then it goes on and it shows a visual of, this is the visual I've been picturing, a blowjob going on. But it says, "I can't feel anything. This was much hotter when it was in my imagination." AZ, you got two guys doing oral sex on each other. Very graphic, genderqueer book in our schools. And then at the end it says, "Let's try something else," of course, right? So then I want us to mention something else. Harvey Milk book in my son's puberty class, right? Harvey Milk was having relations in his 30s with a 16-year-old. Very inappropriate. So my son came home, told me about the book, and the principal pulled it down, but he said it was a really, really good story. So this guy having relations with 16-year-olds in his 30s, right? You also have the safe spaces, little hearts in the schools. It's propagating LGBTQ lifestyles. We don't go around putting heterosexual symbols all over throughout the schools. It's time to get neutral into schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Christine Seitz, followed by Corey Bussey.
Hi, I'm Christine Seitz. I'm a Bloomington resident, and I'm here on behalf of the children currently in the district. They're being exposed to harmful material that are located in the school libraries and possibly their teachers' classrooms. The materials presented tonight are explicit, and at times they're front and center on display in the school libraries with no discretion. I have a petition with over 200 signatures showing this is an area of concern for the community. We are asking the school board to create a policy that prohibits all staff from bringing these materials into the schools. This could easily be modeled after the policies you already have in place that always prohibits non-school persons from distributing obscene, profane, and vulgar content as stated in district policies 904, 524, and 904.1. This explicit material also goes against Minnesota statutes 617.241 and 609.352, which defines obscene material and states distribution of these materials is unlawful. And Minnesota statute 617.291 states that sexually explicit materials are harmful to minors, and if available to minors under the age of 18, that the availability of the materials be restricted to sources within the schools. This is not about banning books. It's about protecting children in the school setting and using discretion for what is appropriate. It is no different than choosing age-appropriate curriculum. Furthermore, these books do not offer educational benefit. New policy is needed to preserve the rights of all parents to make decisions as to what is acceptable for their individual child, as they are the ones that know their child best and can offer the best guidance. This area has gone too long without the proper checks in place, so again, we are asking that it be an immediate top priority of the school board to create policy on a vetting process to be used on all incoming materials, restricted access put in place where appropriate, and a policy that prohibits staff from distributing explicit material. So we are looking for resolution and follow through and would appreciate ongoing communication regarding this topic. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Corey Bussey, followed by Christina Stockton.
I'm Corey Bussey. I'm a 25-year resident of Bloomington, and I hold a degree in literature and composition from St. John's University. I want to start by thanking our great Bloomington Public Schools for providing a wide range of materials to our diverse community. Tax money spent to represent the whole of a community, not the hysterical views of a pearl-clutching few, is money well spent. My kids, who are both products of Bloomington Public Schools, were raised to be readers. They're voracious, and there have been times when what they wanted to read wasn't age appropriate, so we talked about it. And in some cases, they waited, and in some cases, they read it anyway. But these were decisions we made together. What we didn't do was attempt to remove materials from school libraries and make other parents and other students' choices for them. That's not how we roll. That's not what we do. It's not acceptable in Bloomington, it's not acceptable in Minnesota, it's not acceptable in the United States. Anyone who embraces the view that books should be removed from our libraries disqualifies themselves from consideration for public office and from serious discussion in our community. Not only should we not listen to these people, we should mock and deride them. They deserve our scorn. As the meme goes, in all of history, the good guys were never the ones who banned books. In an era of restricting ideas and a time when banned books continue to be on the rise, and let's be clear, that's what's being proposed tonight, banning books. I speak on behalf of the First Amendment rights of students and community members to access the materials they wish to. We're so lucky in Bloomington Public Schools. We have talented and competent professionals using their expertise to the best of their ability, and they deserve that recognition. I speak on behalf of the vast majority of Bloomington's parents and students when I say to those committed professionals and educators who run our school media centers, we've got your back. I speak on behalf of Bloomington's parents, students, and voters when I say to our dedicated school board, we've got your backs too. And finally, I say to all of my fellow Bloomingtons, we've also got your back. Books won't be banned in Bloomington, not on my watch. Thank you.
Thank you. Followed by Katie Schmidt.
Hello, Christina Stockton, and I just want to say thank you all for being here. I know you guys are all in a difficult situation, and I do not envy that position at all. So thank you. I have 3 daughters in Bloomington Public Schools. They're going to 8th, 10th, and 12th grade. My girls also are really lovely readers. They have read many, many books over the years, and we've encouraged that reading. However, I'm not here to discourage people from reading books, but I am here to encourage our school board staff and administration to make sure those books are age appropriate and it is not pornographic material that is portrayed or displayed here in Bloomington. Schools are not the place for those types of materials. As you heard one man say, he couldn't even log in at work. Not that he wanted to, but our kids are being allowed to read this in public schools. Can you imagine, gentlemen and ladies of the school board, if your child or grandchild came home with that book and read some of those sexually explicit things to you? We are not here asking you to ban and do all kinds of terrible things to these books. We're simply asking you to just remove them from the school. People can get them in libraries, outside of schools. They can buy them at half-price books, other books. That is not what we're saying. We're saying as an educational system, it should focus and get back to the basics of education, not on pornographic and sexually explicit materials. That is a distraction to our children, and it should not be there. That's not part of who we are as Bloomington, and we are certainly not here to mock those who disagree with our opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, followed by Carol Madison.
Good evening. My name is Katie Schmidt, and I'm a lifelong Bloomington resident. I attended Bloomington Public Schools, and I have 3 daughters in the Bloomington schools. Additionally, I'm a licensed language arts teacher, a regular volunteer in our schools, and a sub in Bloomington schools. I've always been an outspoken supporter of Bloomington Public Schools, and I value a variety of viewpoints represented in literature as an English teacher. Sexually explicit materials are not appropriate literature in our elementary media centers. The inclusion of these sexually explicit books has put me in a position where I can't fully support and promote our schools as I once did. These sexually explicit books are descriptive pornography, and they have no place in our elementary schools. If the streaming networks like Netflix and Disney Plus are required to give warnings and ratings about sexually explicit content in their media, how much more should an elementary school where parents aren't able to stop a child from checking out an explicit content? My daughter has come home with these books. We don't need to give more people motivation to pull their children from Bloomington Public Schools. If sexually explicit materials remain available for our children to check out in the elementary media centers, there is no doubt that more people will leave Bloomington Public Schools. As a Bloomington parent, I should be able to be confident that the materials my daughters can check out from the elementary media center are appropriate for their maturity level and do not contain explicit material. My confidence in our schools will be broken if these materials are allowed to remain. I want to be an advocate for Bloomington schools, but leaving this explicit content in the elementary media centers is a serious hindrance for my advocacy.
Thank you. Next is Carol Madison, followed by Barb Schneider.
My name is Carol Madison, and I live in Bloomington, and I serve on the staff of a local church here in Bloomington. And I'm invested in the age-appropriate education of children as they mature physically, spiritually, and emotionally. And I want to speak to the difficult role that you have as board members in balancing the concerns of all parents who represent a wide range of beliefs and ideologies. You do not have authority or input over what parents may choose to teach their children in their own homes, especially related to sexual issues. But you do have the responsibility to assure all parents that our Bloomington schools will not overstep its role in educating and exposing children to controversial material, including sexually explicit books found in the media center. I liken it to the movie industry that rates its movies so that parents have informed consent about whether they want their children exposed to the content of that movie. Parental guidance includes determining what is appropriate related to sexual content, drug and alcohol use, or profanity. And some of the content that we've heard tonight is way beyond a PG rating. Many parents would prefer the explicit books be removed altogether, and I would agree with them on that. However, at a minimum, I believe the same movie standards should be maintained in our schools. And that means ensuring that children cannot read or check out sexually explicit books without parental consent. It's how our society operates, and it's also how our schools should operate. Thank you for listening, and thank you for your service.
Thank you. And Barb Schneider.
Good evening. My name is Barb Schneider. I've had two sons in the Bloomington Public Schools. I'm here on very short notice, filling in for someone else. I have elected not to read the selection from the book that I was given because I don't think I could get through it. I will tell you the name of the book is All Boys Aren't Blue. It is a pedophile's dream book. It grooms youth to accept predatory encounters. Anybody who doesn't believe that this is happening is not informed from the news. And this is such a burden on my heart. School needs to be prepared for success in academics. Ironically, I received the school pages with Dr. Melby's very well-written essay, A New Year of Hopes, Dreams, and Achievements, and he says, we want a future where we make good on our mission to empower and equip each learner to succeed in a rapidly changing world. The books that I have reviewed would not fulfill that mission if you are trying to teach and train for the students to be self-supporting people. I mean, I just don't even know what to say about this. This is just so upsetting to me. There is the glorification of pedophilia and pornography in these books. In fact, this one book, All Boys Aren't Blue, has been banned in 8 states. There's another book that I was given to look at that Andy Thule was talking about, genderqueer, and there was a comment on Amazon about this. Somebody wrote, I bought this book to prove that porn is being marketed to kids. It worked. She was able to convince the person that she was talking to who had read the book, and she said, yes, that's exactly what's happening. So these are the kinds of books that are in the libraries here, and I do encourage you to take this seriously.
Barb, your time is up. Thank you. Barb was the last registered speaker that I connected with in the audience. Is there anyone else that was registered that's on my list that did not have the opportunity to speak today? No? Okay, thank you. And so I just want to thank everyone for coming. We do appreciate hearing from our community. And I want to thank everyone in the audience too for being very respectful of all the speakers here tonight and respecting their time. Superintendent Melby.
I just wanted to make folks aware that we do have a policy on the book 606.1. If people have concerns about materials or media center, that would be the policy to reference, and there is a defined procedure for sharing those concerns and how we follow up on them. So I just wanted to make folks aware of that.
Okay, thank you. The listening section is over. Our board meeting will start at 7 p.m. Thank you.